Welcome to Stagecoach, where you'll find the best Western books on the market and the men and women who write them. This podcast is brought to you by Dusty Saddles Publishing, home of the best-selling authors in the Western genre. This is your host, Ginger Winters. This month we are reading Zephaniah Mountain Man, Rocky Mountain Maturity by Mackessy, read by Ryall. Join us as we begin our story.
Zephaniah Mountain Man, Rocky Mountain Maturity by Mackessy. Chapter 1, Zeph in the Beginning, Rocky Mountain Spring. An unknown, unseasoned, untrained, green, and inexperienced young man is hired in Independence, only to even out the number of trapping partners. The man, no, he really acts more like a boy, is an immediate problem to the seasoned and experienced troop of trappers. The segundo, Elias, argues with the Booshway, Zeph, before setting a single foot east. You know as well as I that we needed another man to round out the teams and the partners, said the Booshway. Except he is so green he will be a hindrance to the entire troop. Mark my words, old friend, this will not end well for any of us. I can feel it in my bones, complains the segundo. In all deference to you and your old bones, we need him. Then make this Zephaniah a camp's boy and hire another trapper. There are plenty left to choose from. It is too late. I have made my decision. He stays, says the Booshway. Fine, let it be on your head. I do not want him in my troop, says the troop's segundo, the second man in charge and also his oldest and closest friend. Fine, get them ready to move out, orders the Booshway, the leader of this troop of trappers. 3 months later. Us trappers have arrived at our winter grounds. I am the new man, Zephaniah, Zeph for short. I take my place at the end of the line as the segundo leads us to the river. I can see it is slowly freezing over. Each team knows where we are to set our traps. The segundo will brook no free thinking, especially from the new men, which specifically means me. To the surprise of the segundo, I have withstood every mean and dirty trick ordered by the segundo and carried out by the trappers he calls friends. There ain't much in that bunch. He is trying to make me quit the troop, except I quietly perform to the best of my ability and every low task and errand assigned to me. Way out here, I do not have any other choice. This does not make the segundo happy, but it helps endear me to the troop. By keeping quiet, I have withstood the angry segundo. Up to now, no man in camp has been able to stand against the Booshway's best friend, except me. They all wonder how I could do it. Me, who does not understand the mountains nor its ways. To tell the truth, I don't know myself. I reckon I am mad enough that I want to show up the segundo. I do realize the segundo is trying to help me to leave the troop. So I make a game of this whole deal, and so far I'm winning. I have violated the first law handed down to the troop of trappers from the Booshway and the segundo. I kneel, hidden behind a pile of blowdowns on the north side of the creek. Yeah, I know, I broke the number one rule by crossing the creek. And I'll tell you why. For 3 days, my partner and I have trapped the south bank of the creek. Our combined take, not a single critter. I watch beaver on the north side of the creek adding limbs to their dams. The animals work through the day, every day. In plain sight, they taunt us trappers. It is as if the critters know all beavers on the north bank of the river are safe. The beavers flaunt themselves during the day. I've had enough. I will slip across and set 2 traps. When the beaver trip them, I will bring them back. All I need's a couple of hours. I tell myself as I work up the courage to break the troop's prime law. Besides, who will know? No one, that's who. I'll cross, get to, and recross with no one the wiser. This simple plan brings a smile to my face. I'm going to put out one last set right here. You boys go on ahead. I'll catch up and I'll put my other traps out with yours, I tell the men assigned to work with me as partners. Their answer, just a silent wave as they turn their back. As soon as I lose sight of him, I walk across the creek, downstream from where I sighted a beaver's dam. I have a bad habit of disregarding good advice. I do not bother to look while crossing the cold creek. I lift my rifle, possibles, and 2 pistols well clear of the water. I have learned the hard way the effect water has on the black powder in the pans of my flintlock weapons. On one of my first days in the mountains, I allowed my rifle's pan to get wet crossing a creek. Unfamiliar with weapons, I did not know any better. A part of the segundo's instructions is a short fight. It only took raining 24 blows on me for him to win that fight. I never landed a single fist on him. Now I know better. I now keep my powder dry all the time. This creek will ice over within a week. It is good I do this now, I say, smiling to myself, thinking I have it all figured out. Climbing out of the freezing water, my internal conversation continues. This falling snow will blot out any trail I leave behind. I silently laugh. I set a trap under both of the slides I know are active. I ignore the strange itch along the back of my neck. I've felt it before, but do not have the experience to understand what it means. Carefully closing the cork on the horn container of my beaver medicine, I stretch my cold back. The arrow thumping into the tree at the side of my head sends a shock through my entire body. I grip my rifle tighter. Looking up in time to see a Blackfoot warrior running from the trees toward me, I duck. The warrior flies over me, landing in the cold creek water. Without thinking, I pull a pistol and shoot. The Blackfoot grunts, goes limp in the water, and floats downstream with the current. I trip, then look down, seeing the warrior's hawk on the ground. I bend over to pick it up. I've been wanting one of these ever since seeing the one in the segundo's belt. Bending, I avoid a second arrow, but not the warrior jumping down from the bank and grabbing a hold of me. The warrior fights as I struggle, both of us floundering in the creek. I find my feet first. I stand, and without a conscious thought, I slam the hawk, still in my hand, down onto the top of the warrior's head. A second Blackfoot floats face down in the creek. Seeing a war club on his belt, I take it from the dead warrior. Standing in the creek, I see 2 additional warriors running my way. I bring my .54 caliber Pennsylvania long rifle to a shoulder, take aim, and fire. When the cloud of burnt black powder clears, I see both warriors have stopped. Quickly reloading, I see one warrior lying on the ground, bleeding from a mortal wound. A war cry from the other warrior forces me to move my eyes from the dying warrior to the creek's bank and the warrior readying an arrow. The Blackfoot stands on the bank with a grin, thinking he has me under his arrow. The warrior's expression changes from victory to unawareness. As my pistol ball lands between his eyes, he falls into the creek before slowly joining his brothers floating downstream. I take the knife and scabbard from the dead warrior's belt. I walk out of the creek to check on the 4th warrior. With the last feeble attempt to kill his enemy, me, the warrior lifts his hawk. I pluck it from his hand and kick the last Blackfoot into the water. The creek carries away the 4 bloodied Blackfoot warriors. In a daze, not understanding what just happened, but knowing I have used up every ounce of luck I ever will own, I trip the jaws to both traps, throw them over a shoulder, and cross the creek. Except I'm hearing bees flying by my ears. I stop. Turning around on the bank, one of the bees bites me. Looking down, I see an arrow sticking in my side. They ain't bees, just arrows, I tell myself. I'm surprised and wounded. In painless shock, I collapse behind the fort of the blown-down trees where I stashed the rest of my traps and possibles. Ignoring the heat and the pain slowly growing and spreading through my body, I reload my rifle and both pistols. Each weapon is a single-shot flintlock. I must make each shot count. More arrows thud into the downed trees, providing me a safe place to hide. Yes, I am hiding. The realization of what I have done and knowing I will face the consequences for my actions seize my mind. Laying the heavy barrel of the long rifle over the top deadfall, my eyes count 5 angry Blackfoot warriors standing on the bank across the creek in front of me. My mind races, thoughts coming and going at lightning speeds. I see and know things without actually thinking about them. For instance, across the creek, the warriors scream out their frustration, except they are less than 30 feet from me. The first crazed and angry warrior jumps down into the creek. Picking a spot, I lay the sights on the warrior's chest and pull the trigger. Closing my eyes as the powder burns, I know my aim is true. How do I know this? I don't understand how, I just know, and I ain't about to take the time to reckon it out. The next two warriors climbing down the bank catch pistol lead. The creek slowly sends 3 additional bodies downstream. There are 2 warriors left. One lifts his brown Bess, a heavy British musket. This warrior must have taken it from a dead redcoat, I tell myself, quickly reloading my rifle. The English do not give their Indian partners their best weapons. I silently muse, seating the rifle ball by hitting the rifle's butt against the cold ground. Filling the pan, I keep one eye on my opponents. I aim my rifle before the warrior finishes reloading the English musket. The shot explodes. Flames exit the barrel 5 feet long. The recoil is noticeable, landing an extra thump against my wounded shoulder. As the wind carries away the cloud of sulfur-smelling gray smoke, I see the last warrior standing on the bank. I frantically begin reloading. The last warrior sends arrow after aimed arrow into my hasty fort. I lower myself to the ground. Ramming the ball home, I hear a shot. Expecting to see more Blackfoot armed with British muskets, I fill the pan and stand to aim, except that last warrior is in the water heading downstream. From the corner of an eye, I spot the other trappers. I watch the gray smoke exiting from the barrel of their rifle. They have returned, I say silently, leaning against the old tree trunk. I feel safe standing behind the fort of fallen trees. We heard your shots. Too many to be hunting, so we reckon we better walk back and see what kind of mischief you've run into. Looks like it was a good thing we did, says Asa, the trapper's foreman. How many were there? Asks another trapper as they search the area for more warriors. I don't know for sure. I know I killed 4. They went down the creek, plus these 4 and the one you shot, I told him. I reckon you did good killing 8 Blackfoot and saving one for us, laughs the only trapper I do not like. Look here, I got 4 weapons and you can see these 5 warriors for yourselves. I don't care what, I say standing. The trappers, seeing the arrow in the back of my shoulder and one through my side, rushed to me to help. You best sit down and let me care for those wounds, says the Booshway. Don't worry, I've done this before. Here, take this, he tells me, pouring a spoonful of thick, vile liquid from a small horn bottle onto a spoon. He forces me to take it and swallow. My face proves how loathsome and unpleasant that concoction is. Oh God, if you'd see fit to let me live through the next couple of hours, I promise I'll go back home and make things right. I pray, not knowing if I am going to live through his present circumstances. In the middle of my most fervent prayer, in my relatively short life, everything around me turns black. As the laudanum puts me to sleep, I dream. The quick fight against the Blackfoot warriors plays over in my mind. I lay still. The Booshway warned all of us trappers against crossing the creek. The south bank is safe, but do not, under any circumstance, ever cross the river to the north bank. The Blackfoot constantly guard their territory, says Zeph, warning his trappers. I have a bad habit of not taking good advice. I know there are Blackfoot looking for me. I feel reasonably sure I can survive the coming fight. After all, I have a rifle and 2 pistols. From here on, things grow fuzzy in my mind. Coming to, I see white clouds in a bright blue sky. I hear the wind passing through the trees, kind of whispering as it flows past me. I try moving my head left, right, and forward, all right, until I move my head back. When the pain hits me, it is comparable to running into a rock wall. My world turns dark once again. Coming to sometimes later, I'm unable to tell the passage of time. I try a second time to sit up. Successful. Next move, I think to myself, is getting to my knees. Kneeling is also successful. Now to stand. When the forest around me and the sky above me stops exchanging places, I find I can support myself. Standing, I survey of my surroundings. The forest is making the normal noises. The wind still blows. I sense something inside of myself is different, but do not know what it could be. Grateful, that's it. That is this new feeling, I say to myself. It's the new one for me. I'll need time to think this through. For maybe the first time in my short 22 years, I face myself directly, without glossing over any blemishes. I do not like the result, somewhere deep down, a new feeling's rising. Can I put words to it? I'm trying. A branch breaks. The crack of snapping wood reaches my ears. Then a voice. You don't reckon he crossed the crick now, do you? I hope not, replies the deeper voice. I hear the voices of the trappers I'm working with talking about me. I see they all searching for me. I feel a slap to my face. I open my eyes. You've been out all morning. We got to worrying. We best get back to camp, says Asa, the trapper's foreman. We walked up and down the creek. We found all the warriors you killed. Why'd they come after you, Zeph? Asks Asa. Except I cannot answer, my foreman. I know I was wrong and also know I'm going to have to face whatever comes. The trappers know what I did when I lower my head and refuse to answer. Well, that tears it, Zeph. We warned you about crossing the creek. Now all bets are off. We're going to have to move the camp. They'll be after us for sure now, replies Asa, the trapper's foreman. I'm sorry, Asa. I don't know why, but something in me makes me do what I'm told I can't or I shouldn't do. I hadn't got a single critter in days. Then I saw them out there teasing me on the north bank. I couldn't stop myself. I'd done it, and I'm right sorry about it. I confess now that I've been caught. Good for you being sorry, but now the rest of us have to suffer because of your cussedness, Zeph. If we weren't so far from other trappers, I'd throw you out of camp right now, says Asa, working himself up. I'll understand if that's how you want it, Asa. I won't fuss about your decision. We'll talk about it at camp later, but for now we need to make tracks for camp. Let's go, orders Asa. The trappers set out, heading south on the trail back to camp, following the Booshway and the Segundo. Even wounded, they do not relieve me of my burden of traps and possibles. In our world, each man carries his own load. As dark settles around the woods and the trappers' camp, 24 men gather around the central fire. Each man carves slices from the chunks of elk, slowly roasting over a bed of hot coals, and fill their cup with coffee. Zeph, tell all of us what you've done, orders Seth the Booshway. Seth has explained everything to them earlier. They all know already. Seth just wants me to face up to what I have done. Boys, I'm right sorry about causing you trouble. I know I did it. I couldn't stop myself. I just couldn't help it. I know I done wrong and broke the top rule. I do not blame you for doing what needs doing. Sorry, boys, I say, sitting down. The trappers are looking at me like they're seeing a new man. I hate to admit it, but I've never owned up to any of my many mistakes. They do not expect much from me, a greenhorn, but not a one of them was expecting me to own up to my mistakes and then learn from them. I do not have a single friend in this company, but admitting I did wrong is something new, but it ain't enough. Zeph, I didn't know you, and the things I hear about you, well, let's just say most of it ain't good. I took a chance on you. Knowing now what I do, I would not have taken you on. Now, it ain't personal, but I have these other boys to think about. You put us in a dangerous position. The Blackfoot may seek us out for revenge. A fight with them is never good. They hate us white trappers. I truly don't know how you killed 4 or even the 8 you claim. I'm not sure that's a good thing or not. We got some talking to do. Why don't you wander over there away from the fire? Not too far. Take your rifle and your possibles. In fact, take a walk around the camp for me. Then check on the horses. I'll invite you back with the alcohol, orders Asa. I sling my possibles over his shoulder, fix the hawk in my belt, then take up my rifle. If something ain't right, I'll call in with a quail. With that, I'm gone, slipping silently as I can through the trees. I wrestle with myself. For the first time in my short life, I have to face up to the consequences of my action. Up to now, I simply pack up my haversack and sneak away in the dark after turning things sour. I want to be a trapper. I planned on signing up at the 1st Brigade heading for the Rockies I could find. I was told that after 2 years in the mountains working as a company trapper, I would be considered a free trapper. That is my goal, to be a free trapper. I need the extra money. I found the money to begin this adventure by accident. As I was walking down the dark alley behind a line of saloons, I walked across a trapper passed out from imbibing too much. I had a slug to the back of his head using the man's own pistol. I helped myself to everything that man owned. From clothes to moccasins to weapons and to horses, I took it all. That is how I outfitted myself. I have 4 pack horses, 2 pistols, a dozen traps, and a rifle. 3 panniers sit on 4 pack horses filled with bags of provisions, adding up to a year's worth of supplies, not counting meat. Back then I had no conscience. I do not feel the need to ever return to St. Louis or to home. I do not feel the need to make amends. All I know is the need to stay in the mountains. In this period of self-evaluating, I find myself coming up short. There are two things I am running from. The first is Mary. We married when I was 19 and worked as a driver for a freighting company. Mary was my childhood sweetheart. We've known each other since we were babies. Our families are close neighbors. Everyone knew it was fated that Mary and I will marry. The second problem began at a general store in St. Louis, the destination of my freight wagon. Most of the freight I transported was destined for this store. The owner of the general store had a daughter. At 20, I marry Alice. It is perfect. When home, I have Mary. At the end of the line in St. Louis, I have Alice. Until Mary asked to accompany me on a trip. Her idea was to make the trip the honeymoon we never took. Her family likes the idea. Her father is my employer and likes the idea. A time is set. On my last trip to St. Louis before this honeymoon trip, I wrote my father-in-law an IOU for $100, pocketed the cash, and disappeared. However, now I feel the need to return to St. Louis and to home. I need to make amends. How or what kind, I have no idea. I simply know I need to go. The owl sound brings an abrupt end to this kind of thinking. I'm with the horses. After a good looking over, I head back toward the fire. Zeph will tell you straight out, we voted you out of the camp, but since we need to move, you can stay with us until we find another camp. Then it's you and your horses on your own. Rendezvous will be soon. You just find the river, trap until Rendezvous, then turn in your plews and find another camp. If asked, we won't tell anything about you. Okay, Asa, that's better than I deserve. I'll pull my weight until we part. Thanks. We'll be breaking camp in the morning. You still need to pull your watch. Understand, says Elias, the segundo. Yeah, I do, thanks. The trappers finish eating and drink the coffee pot empty. It's my turn to make the coffee for the Nighthawks. Everyone likes my coffee. I don't just dump the grounds in the pot. I use an old sock to hold the grounds. When I make the coffee, the trappers don't need to use their teeth to sift the grounds. Well, the night passes quiet. We have moved camp so often, everyone knows their tasks without discussion. Camp gear loads onto one pack horse. Each trapper has pack horses for his personal camp gear and traps, and another one or two for his plews, depending on how good a trapper he really is. Zeph leads the men south by a little east. We're heading back to Crow country. Having spent several winters with the Crow, they look at him as a friend. Once we feel clear of the Blackfoot, we slow down to trap as we pass creeks and rivers. I'm expecting Asa to ask me to leave any day now. I find myself anxious about being on my own. We've set up a camp until it's time to head for Rendezvous. The trapping is good, and we are well away from the Blackfoot lands. Our stacks of plews grows higher. Asa presses 2 more horses into carrying pelts, leaving only 3 horses not carrying loads. We will enjoy a good return come Rendezvous. As always happens, when we let our guards down, misfortune occurs. To us, it occurs in mid-afternoon, as we are bringing pelts into camp to finish working that afternoon. 5 of the camp laborers are attaching fresh plews to round willow forms. 2 groups of partners are heading for camp. The rest of the trappers are setting traps. Blackfoot attack all of these groups of trappers at the same time they hit the camp. A large force of Blackfoot has divided their forces and attack us all at different locations. The pairs drop their plews to fight back. Armed with a rifle and a single pistol, the first group of trappers takes down 3 braves. That leaves 2 warriors. Each Blackfoot attacks a trapper. It's a knife or a club fight. Elias, using the club I gifted to him, quickly dispatches the warrior he's fighting. He runs to assist his friend. Again, using a club, he kills the warrior fighting his friend. But he has received 2 deep knife cuts, one to the right arm and one across the ribs. They grab up their plews and run to camp. Timing a lull in the shooting, the first pair makes the camp. The second attack is on mountain men still setting their traps. The trappers kill 2 of the attacking Blackfoot before the 3 remaining warriors mount their attack on the pair. 1 trapper lays dead, killed before the last warrior runs off. Zeph grabs his friend's rifles, pistol, and possibles, quickly reloading all the weapons. Zeph begins his run back to camp, leaving behind plews and his dead partners. He's joined by the last of another bunch. They run into camp. The third attack is at the camp. 5 camp helpers receive fire from 3 muskets and many arrows. The muskets shot by the warriors are all clear misses. The Blackfoot are better with their arrows than English muskets. 3 trappers lay arrow wounded. However, they each account for a warrior. The 3 wounded can still shoot. They cannot reload. A pair of trappers runs into camp with reloaded weapons ready and able to reload for their wounded friends. Elias, now on his own, decides to wait before entering the camp. He sits with 2 rifles and 2 pistols loaded and ready. As the Blackfoot attacks, Elias notes their locations by clouds from burnt black powder. Sneaking as close as possible, Elias picks his targets. He begins whittling down the number of attacking Blackfoot warriors. Prior to the attack, I work on my own. Checking on the horses, I'm carrying my rifle, 4 pistols, and possibles. I've acquired the extra pistols on days just like this, from dead comrades or enemies. Today I will accept my fate. I will go down helping my friends. Taking a knee behind a large tree, I wait in ambush. I know the Indians are after the horses. I'm going to stop them. I set aside the rifle. This work is pistol, knife, and hawk close. I notice the birds have stopped whistling. The squirrels have stopped running from tree to tree with their angry warnings. The warriors are coming. There's a movement, I think to myself. Wait until he's out from the tree. Almost. There he is. Take the shot. I aim a pistol with the front bead on his chest. He still doesn't see me. When the shot goes off, I'm surprised. Through the cloud of burnt powder, I can see the fallen warrior. Back behind the tree, I reload the pistol, putting it in the sash towards my back. I take down another Blackfoot, creeping along the leaf-covered forest floor. Back behind the tree, I reload the pistol, replacing it in the belt. I'm ready and waiting on the next one. 2 warriors are coming to see what happened to their comrade. I pull a second pistol. Can I take the shot and change hands to shoot a second time before he's on me? No? The internal discussion continues. Another thought passes through my head. I've got to try. I step out with both pistols extended. Both front sights find a chest. The shots fire. Quickly now, what? Take a better look. The second warrior's down. It worked. Reload, wait, and listen. The internal conversation warns me. Dry limbs snap behind me. Taking a knee, I turn to look from the side of the tree I'm hiding behind. He's there, coming right at me. Sight on the chest and pull the trigger. Once again ready. I thrust a pistol against the chest of this enemy as it fires. The first look on the warrior's face is astonishment, quickly passing to realization, then to fate. I push him away. The Blackfoot falls into the detritus covering the forest floor. I reload both pistols, double-check the others, and wait. Remembering my rifle, I find it, checking the powder in the pan and the flint. I can't sit waiting out the fight. No, I need to get back into it, I tell myself. Right then, I hear more firing back at camp. I head in that direction, along the way deciding to check the warriors I find, making sure they're dead and not waiting to lure in an unwary trapper. I collect their smaller weapons, knives, hawks, and clubs, making a pile of the plunder behind the trees. I need to move to help my friends. Before leaving this tree, I move a pistol to the front of my sash and belt and pick up a club from the pile of loot. Carefully walking along the other side of the horses, I stop. I wait, hearing the firing from the camp increasing. I'm torn. I know they need help, but the horses are important. I wait, my head swirling and my stomach roiling, not from fear of the fight, but from anxiety over my friends. What to do swirls through my internal conversation. A warrior is walking towards me. I cock the pistol in my hand. Kneeling and looking around the tree, there he is, about 40 yards away. A single man approaches and he's carrying a knife and a hawk. Do I shoot him from the safety of 30 yards, or do I meet him with similar weapons? The warrior stops. He's looking for something or someone. Is it for me or for his mates? Standing, I ready my pistol. The warrior yells at seeing me. He begins running towards me. Aim and pull the trigger. I tell myself it fires. A good hit, straight to the chest. I stop. The warrior keeps running, actually more of a fast stumbling, but he's coming for me. The green and inexperienced mountain man. I bring up the second pistol, aiming and pulling the trigger. I feel the recoil. I wait until the wind clears and the sulfur-smelling cloud of burnt powder. A sharp look at me and the warrior collapses to the ground, dead. I reload and wait, hiding in the trees. 4 warriors lay dead from my hand. Can't think about that now. They keep sending warriors to the horses. The horses must be important. I'm going to remain right here, I decide, stopping the internal worry and debate. At the trappers' main camp, the fight continues. The Blackfoot attack in pairs or triples. They can handle those attacks. They won't be able to handle an attack by the whole group. Why haven't they made that attack, I ask myself. More arrows fly. 2 of the wounded lay pin-cushioned. They're dead. Down to 4 men. As the warriors with bows step out to send additional deadly arrows, the trappers shoot them down. Asa, how many do you think we've killed? Calls Seth. I know 6 for sure, could be more, and maybe more wounded. Sounds like they're attacking whoever's with the horses too, notes the Booshway. Yeah, and it ain't going so good for them. Zeph's over there, laughs Asa. Good. How long do you think they'll keep this up? Do the Blackfoot believe in medicine too? Asks Elias. They've lost a lot of men. I don't see them coming much longer. Maybe at dark they'll pull out, but stay sharp. We ain't done yet, warns Asa. As the sun sets, the birds come out. The squirrels are running from tree to tree. Above the camp, an eagle soars. The dark settles in. Hello, the camp, breaks the silence. I'm coming in. They have pulled out. We got most of them. How'd you do? Hey, Zeph, it's good to see you. We've lost many of the boys. Was that you by the horses? Asks Asa. Yeah, it was. They are safe. I checked their ropes and hobbles, I add. The 3 surviving trappers get to the business of burying their friends. They dig the graves deep, covering the last 2 feet in rocks. There are no markers. The Blackfoot would dig them up and desecrate the bodies if we marked the graves. The trappers drive the horses over the graves on their way out. Come the morning, there is no evidence of a grave to see or find. The 3 surviving trappers equally divide the gear and the plews of their dead partners. They load horses with camp goods and plews. When ready, Seth leads them south to Rendezvous. A week later, in the morning, before heading out, I have news for my 2 friends. I won't be going with you to Rendezvous. I'm heading to St. Louis and then home, I announced. Why? Asked my surprised friends. I have things I need to take care of. Things I ran away from 2 years ago. It's time I take care of them. I may return next year. In spite of everything, you'll be welcome in my company, says Asa. Thanks. Who knows, you might find me wanting to winter up. It all depends on what happens in town, I laugh. Good luck. I am wrestling with myself. For the first time in my relatively short life of 22 years, I have to face up to the consequences of a willful action. Up till now, I could simply pack up a haversack, load my horses, and sneak away in the dark when things turn sour. In this period of self-valuing, I find myself coming up short. There are things I am running from. I escaped to the mountains to get away from my previous life. Now I'm afraid of messing up this new resolve. My problem began on my trip back to St. Louis. The foothills lay but 50 miles behind me. I have plenty of coffee, flour, and other supplies. My diet consists mostly of meat, typically buffalo with a regular addition of deer, elk, or antelope, and of course coffee. I follow the Bighorn River south. I became confused in the Wind Rivers. I followed unnamed rivers and creeks, walking in circles. I decided to ford up close to the Wind River. I know winter will be along sooner than I would like, and I need to prepare. I am alone and lost. I am annoyed at myself, but not concerned or troubled. I know how to take care of myself, how to hunt, and have lived in cold weather. I know I can survive. I start by making a corral for my horses. I add an enclosed and wind-tight lean-to, bring in a large load of firewood and cut grass for horse feed. When the weather changes, I begin hunting. I make meat caches in the trees. I store jerky and smoked buffalo, deer, and elk. I have plenty of powder for my pistols and my rifle, along with the extra rifles souvenired from my friends, along with their possibles. I've made my camp in the tree line. I see buffalo and elk in the grassy parks, and I know the horses will pull through. The only thing I have to worry about is an accident, and I know I cannot worry about that happening. I keep busy making my preparation for winter. Each day I ride along my trees above the large grass park. I am keeping an eye on the local buffalo and other animals. There's one thing keeps me wary. Why have I not seen any Indians yet? I don't want to, but I know I will, and I want to get it over with. I hope I ain't trespassing. I know enough to know. I do not know enough about where I am, if that makes sense to you. I know I ain't the only one to call this area home. I don't know which tribe this area belongs to and what it will take to allow me to winter here. I reckon I'll have to wait, so I do. The weather changes all at once. One day the sun is out shining and it's warm. The next morning I woke up to a carpet of snow covering what I call the park. I saddle my horse and see how much snow fell in other places. I haven't left my camp. One minute I am saddling my horse and the next a dozen warriors surrounded me. Keeping hands away from weapons, I walk ahead of my horse. I do not know how to begin talking to them. I simply raise my right hand. They look at one another. The biggest warrior in the bunch points to me, then to my horse, then his group, and then to the north. I nod. It looks like I'm riding north. We don't ride far. I can still smell faint wisps of the wood smoke from my camp. They found me very easily. We ride through a horse herd, most horses I've ever seen at one time. Splashing through a shallow creek, we enter their camp. Teepees sit arranged in no order, but there is a sense of, orderliness to the camp. We ride along a path through the center of the camp until we face a large lodge. My escorts climb down from their horses. I follow along. Others lead our horses away, mine included. I still have my rifle and my possibles, but it will not be hard for them to strip me of all my weapons. We take seats on logs that serve as benches. They've done that so long the seats are polished. Without ceremony, an older warrior emerges from the teepee. He has gray hair but stands straight. He walks quickly to an upturned large-diameter stump that had been fashioned into a grand chair. In back of this throne-like chair stands a handful of older men. He begins talking. I have no idea what he's saying. All I can do is shake my head negatively. He stops. The crowd begins a low murmuring. Do you know English? I ask him. It's his turn to shake his head. We're at an impasse. I raise my hand to slip the possibles off my shoulders. A loud gasp comes from every person around us. The chiefs all stand. Now what did I do? I think to myself. He walks to me, stopping in front of me. He raises both hands, palms up. I stand. He nods his head. With his right hand he points to the buckskin cuffs on my wrists. I hold them up. His eyes grow big. He points to the grizzly claw necklace around my neck. I open my coat to bring the bear claw necklace out from my blanket coat. A murmur sweeps through the camp. The old man points to the beaded knife sheath on my belt. These are some of the souvenirs I took from Blackfoot warriors I killed when they attacked me on their land and in the trappers' camp a couple months ago. I'm confused, and I'm sure it shows on my face. The man I take to be a chief calls another man from the crowd. With hurried orders, the man runs off. Now we all wait. The runner returns with an old man. 3 young men help him into the circle. All 3 are sturdy-looking warriors. An excitement grips the crowd. I feel its presence. As soon as the old man settles onto a buffalo robe and another covers his shoulders and back with a grizzly bear robe with head, claws, and tail, the first chief speaks. The old chief nods his head at the end of each sentence. After a brief quiet, he looks at me. He pats the buffalo robe. I don't understand. One of the warrior's escorts walks to me, gripping my shoulder. He indicates I need to stand up. I do. He guides me to the spot beside the old chief, and I sit. He grabs my hand. I expect his grip to be weak and cold. It is not. He brings my right arm up to look at the cuffs. He sees it, nods, and lets go. He is pointing to the same cuff on his wrists. I raise his arm. Side by side, I compare them. They're identical. I show him the bear claw necklace and the knife in the beaded sheath. He traces a pattern only seen with his eyes on the bear claws. His eyes are watering. Did you kill my sons to get these things from them? He asks me in deep, strong voice. I'm shocked he speaks English. I can't answer right away. No, I did not. I took them from different Blackfoot warriors me and other trappers killed well north of here, I tell him. Tell me all the story, he commands me. So I do. I begin with the Booshway's warnings and the fight at the creek. I tell them of moving our camp and the Blackfoot attack. I tell him how I took these things from only warriors I killed. As you can see, I wear the same pattern. Those you wear belong to my sons Gray Wolf and Eagle, he explains. They left on a raid, and I never saw them again. Now I know the Blackfoot killed them, and you killed those warriors. I thank you. Tell me the story of your kills, he orders. I do. I see. And you killed 2 handfuls of black warriors? Knife? Yes, I have some of the weapons I took from them. A few others I gave away as gifts to other trappers. The old chief looks deep into my eyes. I truly believe he could see deep inside of me. I was a bit shook by that stare. He then begins talking to his people. He is relating the story to them. There are shouts and cries as he's talking. I don't know if this is good or not. At the end of the telling, the 2 warriors help the old man to his feet, and I stand also. Gray Wolf and Eagle were 2 of my sons. You will stay with us. I have sent a runner to search for the buffalo. I want you to hunt with us. You will be a friend to the crow, to my family, and to me. A lodge waits for you. Your horse will be brought to you. Feel free to walk through the camp, but do not try to leave. Do not worry. I believe you. I know my sons would not have given away such treasures without a good fight. Your story is proof enough. Black Otter will show you to your lodge. And leave your weapons in the lodge. You will not need them. You are my guest. What is your name? I am called Zephaniah. That name does not roll off our tongues. We will rename you tonight. I will send Black Otter for you as the sun falls. We will eat and smoke together. You are a friend to the crow. The escort named Black Otter waves me to him. I follow him to the south end of the camp, opposite from the horse herd. My saddle horse stands naked in front of the lodge. I do not see my other horses, just their pack frames. Inside the lodge are my packs and weapons. A fire burns in the stone-lined fire pit centered in the lodge. My coffee pot is near the flames. I make a fresh pot of coffee and think about what just happened. I'm not worried. I reckon there are worse ways to spend a winter. 2 weeks later, the runner rides into the camp. He looks tired and his horses look exhausted. I make myself ready to appear in front of the chiefs. I wear the beaded knife on my belt. Without my pistols and possibles, I add the intricately carved Blackfoot war club. If this gets the way I know it should, I'm going to gift the club to the old chief. As expected, Black Otter scratches on the door flap to my lodge. I meet him outside. Together we walk. All around me, members of the village are walking behind us to the lodge. Like before, the old chief is sitting on the buffalo robe with the grizzly bear robe wrapped around his still strong shoulders. His face lights up when he sees me. He's signaling to take a seat next to him. I do. Our runner returned from my son's camps. It is as you have told me. From now on, you will be known as friend to the crow and by the name of White Eagle. Welcome, White Eagle. The entire village shouts a cheer. The old chief stands. Now we can eat. What is your name? I ask him. I am known as Stands Alone. I will tell you the story sometime. For now, we eat. The old chief takes a seat on the buffalo robe. I pull the Blackfoot war club. A mumble passes through the people, starting to find places to sit and eat. I raise the club in both hands in front of Stands Alone. The village falls quiet. The warriors stir. I bend down to present it to the chief. His eyes light up. What is this for? He asks me. Because you believed my story and invited me to spend the winter with you and your people. I tell him, sitting at his side. The warriors relax. The villagers begin eating. He whispers something into Black Otter's ear. Women bearing wooden platters set them in front of us. I eat until I am ready to burst. Near the end of our feast, Black Otter returns. He carries a burden in both hands. 2 women walk with him. Stands Alone bids me to stand. He calls over Black Otter. The package exchange hands. This is for you, White Eagle. We can't have a guest dressed the way you are. He He hands me the package. I open it. The cover is an elk hide cape with the hair left on. Inside is a complete buckskin crow winter outfit. Breeches, war shirt, moccasin lined in wolf fur, a buffalo robe, and a new blanket coat. I'm speechless. I have no words, stands alone. This is too much, stands alone, I stammer. It is not. Now you are one of us. You will pass the winter much more comfortable. Besides, you cannot return to your camp. Why not? Well, a lot of the meat for this feast is yours. The jerky is in your lodge. You will hunt with us to replace your winter store and to help the village put up their winter's meat. Thank you. If you had asked, I would gladly give it all to you, I tell him after swallowing a hot chunk of buffalo. I know. This way is better. Now you are one of us, he says with a devious smile. Thank you, stands alone, I say aloud. To myself, I think, this man bears watching. 2 days later, Black Otter comes for me. It's time to prove my boasts. The villages will find out how well I can hunt and if I can really shoot my rifle. Following behind us are 20 warriors and over 50 women and children leading horses, pulling travois. We're going buffalo hunting. I'm included because I'm a member of the village. For the first time in my life, I feel at home and at peace with myself. For the next 3 years, I learned by living with the crow. I can survive, live, and flourish in the mountains by trapping and hunting. But more important, they teach me to fight with my hands, a knife, a hawk, a lance, and a bow and an arrow. After that first buffalo hunt, I set aside my arms and pick up crow weapons. For 3 years, I forget who I am and become a crow warrior. Chapter 2, With the Crow. I will forever be thankful to Chief Stands Alone for asking me to overwinter with him in his village. It was not until several weeks into my stay that I truly learned all I did not know. If I had sought to return to my camp and live on my own, well, I probably would have died sometime during the winter. Thanks to my new family, I live and live well. On that 3rd day, my learning begins. The scouts have located the buffalo herd. They are right where Stands Alone expects to find them. The scouts follow the turned-up prairie grass. The slowly moving herd is made into a wide road. The buffalo road is over 50 feet wide. It follows the river across the prairie. While the scouts were gone, the village prepared to leave, to follow the herd and begin the animal hunt. The warriors are the hunters. They ride their best horse and lead their buffalo runners. Behind us follow the women, leading hundreds of horses bearing travois and children. Only a token force of old warriors is left behind securing the village. Hunters are needed to supply meat to ensure the village makes it through the advancing winter. The old folks warn of harsh, cold weather ahead. We travel for 3 days, following the trail left by the scouts. After alerting the village, they return to follow the buffalo, leaving behind them a marked path. This village and all the Indian nations depend on the migrating buffalo for all of their sustenance. This dependence is many generations old. Their hunt follows proven tactics. One of those tactics is establishing a temporary camp ahead of the moving herd. The village sets up in a large grove of trees next to a feeder creek. The herd will pass them on the morrow. Today they prepare. Stands Alone is adding one change to the hunt. He is allowing me to make a stand before the warriors on their buffalo runners begin the chase. I hope to shoot at least 30 of the beasts before they walk or stampede out of range. I'm hoping not to stampede them. I have 6 rifles to hunt with. Crawling within 30 yards, I plan on dropping the animals quickly and without a stampede. After I stop firing, the warriors on their special horses will begin. That will make the herd run. Chasing after the herd, the warriors will kill all the animals they can, using arrows or lance. The hunters will follow the herd until out of arrows or their lance breaks. The dead buffalo left in the wake of the herd are the responsibility of the women and the children. Their work begins as soon as they reach an animal. The kills are identified by the arrow. Older boys and those not yet warrior age line the anticipated trail wearing wolf pelts. Their job is to keep the buffalo running straight ahead. Working together, the village hopes to harvest at least 150 animals to see them through the cold and snow months. The women and children process the animals until the entire job is finished. The warriors provide protection from the buffalo wolves that follow the herd. The warriors also discourage any other group of Indians from attacking, seizing their winter supply of meat. It is not unusual to meet hunters from several different tribes during a hunt. An unspoken decree dissuades one group from fighting and stealing from another. All of them depend on the buffalo, and there is enough for all to harvest what they need. The buffalo hunt is neutral ground. Before the sun begins to rise, I walk from the trees toward the sleeping herd. Stopping at 30 yards from the edge of the herd, I set my shooting sticks into the ground. I'll start with my rifle, shoot, lay it aside, and reach for the next. When all have been fired, I will stop to reload and begin again. I'm hoping to repeat at least 9 times before the herd stands and walks out of range. I am ready as the first rays of the sun flash on the animals in front of me. At first I am breathless. I have never seen so many animals in one place at the same time. The herd must stretch over a mile from end to end to cover the entire strip of grasslands. A large bull standing interrupts my gazing on the herd. It is time to get to work. I sight in on the first standing animal, placing the sights behind the front leg at the shoulder. A round ball pushed by 120 grains of black powder will drop the animal. My intention is quick kills. A wounded animal will alert the herd, and they will begin moving. It is important I harvest at the minimum 30 of these magnificent animals. I set the trigger. Moving my finger to the hair trigger, my sights aligned. I take a breath and the shot is off. I do not feel the kick from the heavy load. As the obnoxious gray cloud clears, I see the animal is down. A clean kill. Laying aside my rifle, I lay the next in the sticks. From here on, it is a simple matter of putting the sights on the plate-sized target, squeezing the trigger. I begin my first reload. The animals are not interested in why their fellows have fallen, though noise does not frighten them. They remain in place. By the 9th reload, I feel the bruising my shoulder is taking. My eyes are red from the burnt black powder. My nose is clogged. My hands tingle, losing some feel. My trigger finger is burning. I'm sure there will be a blister by the time I'm finished. My stomach rumbles at the scene before me and my head pounds. The only thing that keeps me going is the importance of this meat for the village to live through the winter. I begin my 10th reload. I fire each rifle, dropping an animal with each shot. When my weapons lay entry, I try counting the black limps before me. I cannot. I begin reloading. Concentrating so hard on what I am doing, I do not notice Black Otter lying beside me. I fire my rifles for the 11th time. When they lay empty, Black Otter lays a hand on my shoulder. "It is enough. Let our warriors have their turn," he says, smiling. All I can do to answer is nod my head. Black Otter jumps up, climbs onto the back of his buffalo runner, and charges off, joining the other hunters. I did not notice his horse standing there. I stand, stretching my back, and begin loading my arms with very dirty rifles. I look up. Surrounding my buffalo are women, kids, and horses pulling travois. The animals are quickly skinned, gutted, and quartered. My kills are on their way to the camp. I watch their efficiency for a couple of minutes. There is a sound at my side. I turn to see a horse with a travois and a boy holding my riding horse. He exchanges my rifles for the reins. I watch him load my rifles on the travois and take them into the camp in the trees. I follow him on my horse. He stops where I have set my buffalo robes. He quickly unloads my rifles and returns to the buffalo. I leave my horse saddled in case I have to ride out to help. Sitting by the fire ring, I begin a pot of coffee before setting in on cleaning my rifles. Once again, I'm concentrating on the task at home, not noticing that Stanzalone is at my side. It is good that you work hard at your tasks. It is not good that you do not notice what takes place around you while you work. This is a habit we will work on, he says, sitting down at my side. I pour him a cup of coffee. He lifts a hand, waves, and a young child walks up with a wooden plate filled with strips of steaming buffalo. At that first glance, I know I'm hungry. We finish the plate and signal for another. We do not talk while clearing that first plate of meat. On the second, I slow down and we talk. When the meat runs out, I return to cleaning my weapons. I do not remember what we talked about, but I am surprised after finishing work on that last rifle. I think you will want to know, you killed 63 buffalo. Only 3 needed a second rifle ball. That is good shooting. How would you like to learn to use your weapons? Standalone asked me. I would like that. I answer, I am beginning to feel the pain all over my body. Good. We will begin after returning to the village. For now, I think you need the hot springs and the fresh buckskins. He laughs. I have no idea what he is talking about. Another child walks up with his arms filled with buckskin. Follow the boy. He will show you where to wash. Take your time. Relax. Your work today is done, he says with a smile. I nod my head. Standalone walks away. The boy begins walking into the trees, and I follow him. It's only a couple of minutes. I sense the creek. A bit farther, and I see the creek. We walk upstream, and I see the steam. It is a natural hot spring. The boy puts down my clean clothes, points to the water, and walks off. Alone, I step into the hot water. Immediately, I feel better. At the point of falling asleep, I hear footsteps. I wake up and turn to see who it is. It is a group of warriors. As they undress to step in, I get out and begin dressing. I do not understand what they are saying, but I see them pointing to my wounds. I have a nice collection, 2 from arrows, a single from a pistol ball, and a long one from a knife. They smile at me. I have no idea what that means. I'm going to ask Standalone. That is when I realize I need to learn their language also. We stay at the hunting camp for 3 days. During that time, children collect the hides, bones, sinew, hooves, brains, and take them on travois back to the village. Many small fires built under racks, made from willow limbs, hold strips of buffalo. They are making jerky. Small roast-sized pieces of buffalo are stacked on a travois and taken to the village. I look around, and everywhere I see, people are making use of every piece of the buffalo, from the hooves boiled down to make glue, to the horns heated to make bowls, spoons, and cups. Every part of the animal has a use. For 3 days, the women and children work hard, taking everything back to the village. The warriors escort the line of travois by protecting the village and the camp. I ride at the side of the lines of travois, adding to their protection. The first night back in the village, there is a feast and dancing. Warriors tell and retell stories of hunts and past hunts. Between Black Otter and Standalone, I have no idea of what's said. After eating my fill, I get up to retire to my lodge. Standalone stops me. You have the hides, meat, and all the other necessary things from 63 buffalo, says Standalone. I do not need that much. Give 25 hides to whoever gave me the lodge. I'd like the sinew and enough glue to make a bow. I can use 6 of the largest horns. I'll keep the meat and jerky from that. Do you think 4 will see me through the winter? I ask him. It will, but keep the meat from 5. What about the rest? He asks me. Give it to whoever needs it and spread around the rest. I cannot use that much. I did it to help the village. You can have what I don't need, I tell the shocked chief. Do not return to your lodge yet, he tells me. Standalone gets to his feet and the crowd quiets. He addresses them, and I have no idea what he is saying. There is not a sound from anyone when he sits. Slowly, as the word sets in on what he said, the celebration continues. Through the rest of the night, individuals, couples, and families come to me bearing gifts. After the first one, I ask Standalone why. They are repaying you for your generosity. Accept it and thank them. He tells me, so I do. The pile grows the longer I sit there. I'm getting embarrassed. I ask my friend if I can return to my lodge. He nods his head yes. I carry what I can to my lodge. Black Otter follows with the rest. He helps me bring it inside and returns to the fire.
I lay down. The events from the hunt until now pass through my head. During the remembering, I fall asleep. I'm surprised when I wake up to find the sun already up. I hurry outside to water the trees. Walking back to my lodge, I see what I missed in my hurry. Scattered around my fire pit are everything that will make life in the village successful. There are tools, sacks of different foods, especially pemmican. There are utensils made from buffalo horn, buttons. There's wolf hides, deer hides, elk hides, and a grizzly bear hide. A bale of elk hides for making some clothes and moccasins. All the parts to build a bow are in the mix. A limb from an Osage orange, sinew for backing, and a string, and a horn pot of glue. I see weapons, a lance, hawks, knives, and clubs. There is a pipe with a case and a parfleche of tobacco. It is too much. Stands alone walks to me. This is too much. How can they give all of this as gifts? Don't they need it? I ask him. I'm very confused. Let's talk inside. He follows me in. We sit around my small fire. They are only trying to say thank you for your gifts. No one expected you to give away so much. They are surprised, and this is their way of saying thank you. If you do not accept their gift, it will be seen as an insult. I will have to ask you to leave the village. Is that what you want? No, I gave it away because it was too much for me, and now they will help you learn our ways. To that end, I have brought you a wife. We know you may leave us, and she is still willing. I expect her to care for you, but also to teach you our language and our ways. Will you accept his gift? Stands alone asked me. I will only if you tell me the story of how you got your name. I agree. This is my story. I set aside the face that I now have a Crow wife, in addition to 2 women back in the States, to hear this story. Without noticing, a girl enters my lodge carrying a bundle of furs and skin. She sets them by my blankets and begins fixing a meal for the 3 of us. I am listening intently and do not notice her or her work. Stands alone as a warrior, a strong warrior, with medicine behind him. When he suggests a horse-stealing raid, many warriors agree to go. Often there are too many to take. To those he promises the next raid. He has his eye on a Blackfoot village north of his village with a reputation for very strong horses. These horses that will become buffalo runners. They rode 6 days north to Blackfoot lands. The day after crossing the Yellowstone River, they find the camp. The summer camp is in a valley. The crows on the south side mountains look down in the village. There are over 2 hands of lodges. The horse herd is kept down river from the village. They count 6 herd boys guarding the herd. They can see women working, meat drying on racks over the fires, older boys practicing shooting with their bows and delivering lances from horseback. There are no warriors in view. The 12 Crow warriors watch through the day. They chew jerky and drink creek water while watching. When the sun 4 fingers from the horizon, they ride from the ridge to firm their plan. During the early morning, before the sun is thinking about rising, when the sentries are weakest, the Crow ride for horse herd. They are not taking all of them. Stands alone will guard them while they cut several dozen from the herd and head them south. The Crow must kill 4 horse guards. They quietly made their escape, walking the horses south. When far enough away from the village, where the sounds of the running horses will go unnoticed, Stands alone gets them running. A couple hours after sunrise, they slow to a walk. With the sun directly above, they stop for a quick break. Along the way, the horses drink as needed. Now they pull hardy buffalo grass with their strong teeth. Stands alone gives them an hour to graze and gets them heading south. The first night, they ride off the trail into the tree line. Half the men watch, the others sleep. They change halfway through the night. The horses are ready to go, having grazed throughout the night. The Crow and their spoils cross the Yellowstone River without a problem. 2 days from their village, their medicine weakens. At midday, the 12 Crow warriors pushing 100 horses heading south cross the trail of a Blackfoot war party heading north. The 2 sides pass the other before realizing the others are enemies. Half of the Crow Indians push their horses south, while the other half face the enemy. The Blackfoot have no horses. Many of their warriors show signs of wounds. Their raid did not go well for them. The 6 Crow charge a dozen injured and distressed Blackfoot. Finishing off their wounded enemy is quick. Stands Alone, not yet having that name, rides out to meet them. He tells his fellow Crow to stay behind. They reluctantly obey. Stands Alone rushes ahead. The Blackfoot on his right takes the lance. The warrior on his left leaves the Crow leader with a cut and bleeding side. Like knights from a distant age, they turn, stop, and face each other. Kicking their horses forward, they race toward a collision. Stand Alone flies from his saddle, taking the surprised opponent to the ground. The Crow lands on the Blackfoot, driving his breath from his body and breaking a couple ribs. On the ground, Stand Alone deposits his knife into the back of the Blackfoot. Jumping to his feet, the Crow pulls his last weapon, his hawk. The Blackfoot warrior slowly gets to his feet. Like Greek wrestlers, they circle each other, both looking for an opening. Not seeing one, the Crow feigns a slip, creating an opening. The Blackfoot rushes in, taking the advantage, or so he thinks. Stands Alone flattens himself on the ground, avoiding the warrior. As he passes, Stands Alone stands, grabs his knife, and lands a blow to the neck from the hawk. Stunned and dying, the Blackfoot can only wobble on his feet. Stands Alone slashes the back of the man's neck, almost to the point of severing his head. Feeling a tickle on his arm, Stands Alone looks down. Surprised, he sees a long knife wound on his left hand. He did not feel the knife cut him. Taking the dead warrior's weapons, Stands Alone walks toward the man's horse. Taking the horse completes the victory. He is now able to lead a war party. Stands Alone has killed a warrior in battle, taken his weapons and his horse, satisfying the requirements. The warriors watching the tableau unfold begin screaming and celebrating. His brother binds the wound. A friend takes him a horse. Not showing the pain nor the weakness he feels, Stand Alone climbs onto the horse and signals the party south. Behind them lay the Blackfoot warriors, dead and mutilated, so they will be useless in the afterworld and not go looking for revenge on the Crow warriors. The Blackfoot horses join the herd. The Crow heads south. Before entering the village, the 12 Crow warriors stop at a creek to bathe, change clothes, and add their feathers awarded in battle to their hair. They paint their horses, telling the story of the raid and the short fight. When the herd boys first sight the returning warriors, one rides to the village to alert the criers. The village, hearing the commotion, turn out to greet the returning warriors. Proud, the dozen warriors push the horses ahead of them. Keeping from the great herd, the warriors walk in a group into the village. They stop in front of the elders. The village quiets. Everyone wants to hear the story. 11 warriors relate the raid and the fight with the Blackfoot. Stands Alone does not boast or brag. He waits. The elders begin preparation for a feast. The herd boys take the horses, marking them all with the same mark until the distribution is made. The elders invite the 12 inside the large lodge to hear the complete story. After the telling, they give Stands Alone the name he now carries. That night, he lets the others tell the story. He sits knowing he has the horses to make the girl his wife. That was the entire purpose of the horse trade. Stands Alone is getting married. You are one of the few that have heard my story from my own words. I do not tell it to everyone. To me, it is personal and something I will keep for myself, he tells me. I begin learning the weapons of the Crow. The bow takes the longest. Several warriors ask to accompany them on a hunt. I tell them I have put up my weapons to learn the Crow weapons. I tell them I am not ready to hunt. I'm not sure what they think as they walk away. I only hope they will help me to learn their ways of life. The winter does prove to be harsh and much colder than any of the old ones I remember. To me, I do not notice the snow, the cold, or the length of the season. Willow, my Crow wife, helps me learn the language and more efficient using signs. She keeps our lodge clean, makes good meals, and keeps me heading for my lodge every afternoon. During the days, I practice with weapons. On clear days, I hunt using my bow. With the sun out and not a cloud in the sky, the temperature drops. I thank the buffalo for the wolf fur-lined garments and moccasins I wear, with grizzly bear cape during the day and the soft tan buffalo robes I stay warm. Like it does, winter turns to spring. As my prowess with a bow increases, I'm invited to go hunting. I go every chance I get. Black Otter and I head out one spring morning after the sun rises. I'm riding my best horse and leading a second to use to pull a travois. I have my strung bow on my back and a dozen arrows in a badger hide quiver. I killed the critter with 2 arrows a couple weeks ago. Willow made it into a quiver for me. I don't hold with the notion that if a woman touches a man's weapons, they will lose their medicine. To me, I've seen how they believe medicine works, but I reckon a lot of that is luck. My weapons do not hold any luck. They will bleed out if someone touches them. The effectiveness of my weapons rests with me. I am proud of the quiver she made me. I am carrying a lance in my hands because Black Otter does. He has a worry about bears, and if he sees one, he wants to give it his lance. I go along to make him feel better. We are heading to a natural salt lick Black Otter knows about and holds as a tightly held secret. He has only taken me after I promised never to tell anyone. We ride into the trees and tie off our horses. I exchange the lance for my bow. I follow Black Otter as we're walking deeper into the woods. I see him put an arrow on his string, so I follow his lead. We slow to taking 2 steps, stopping and looking around before taking the next couple steps. It is slow going, but we see game. Unfortunately, the animals are heading away from us, and the trees are thick. I wait, knowing my patience will pay off. I hear a deer jump to its feet and begin running. It is close, not more than 20 yards. Before I can pull the arrow back, Black Otter has aimed, fired, and shot the deer. I watch it fall over. I now know I have a long way to go to reach his proficiency, if I ever do. He walks to the deer without stopping. After 2 steps, I am behind him. From the corner of an eye, I see another deer stand from his hiding place. He is looking at us and not running. I am ready. I send an arrow his way, am surprised when it connects, and more surprised when he piles into a tree. Black Otter stops and is looking at me with a wide smile. I got him to stand for you. Good shot, White Eagle, he tells me. Black Otter walks to the deer, and I walk to fetch mine. We got them right there. I follow Black Otter's lead by adding the liver and heart back into the bloody cavity. We pull our kills out of the woods to where we left the horses, where we will build the travois. Working together, we make short work of the chore. We throw my larger-bodied deer onto the travois first and secure it. Working together, we add Black Otter's deer. I look at the antlers on the big mule deer, and they branch with the biggest tine branching a second time. He has eye guards 4 inches long. This is the biggest deer I've killed. Why did he stand there and let me kill him, I asked myself. He knew Black Otter was there and didn't run off. Why, I asked myself. Stop gloating. If we hurry, we can be back before dark, says Black Otter, looking around. I unstrung my bow. The back of my neck tingles. With a slow turn, I inspect the trees around us. I see nothing. Black Otter climbs onto his horse, and I follow, jumping onto the blanket in place of my heavy saddle. On the back of my horse, I'm becoming used to riding this way. Black Otter lets me go first, since I am leading my horse with the travois. I carry my lance at the ready. My neck is warning me about something. I dig a stick of buffalo jerky from the parfleche on my horse, slowly taking small bites as we ride home. I hear a rustling in the trees about 6 feet from us. We follow no trail, just a cleared lane between the trees. I turn to look at Black Otter. To my horror and surprise, a brown blur runs out of the trees heading for us. Seeing or smelling the fresh kills, this large brown terror veers away from me and towards the travois. Without thinking, I jump from my horse. The lance is still in my hand. The brown blob lands on the grass and slides into the travois. Both horses cry out at the danger and run. I have time to take my opponent. As it stands to full height, a couple feet above Black Otter's horse's head, I see a thoroughly riled grizzly bear. Only a matter of feet separate us. From the corner of my eye, I see Black Otter ready an arrow. I run forward, thrusting my lance into its chest. The great bear lets out a scream with a growl. while batting the air in front of him with his shorter front arms. I see the claws extend. This brute is out to kill. I plant the end of the lance on the ground, pull my hawk, and let it fly. I've been practicing until I can land my hawk blade first almost every time. I do not have time to think about what I'm doing. Just do it. The blade lands in the bear's forehead. He bats it out with a single paw. The hawk lands on the grass to the side of the bear. The first arrow lands in the bear's chest. Before I can take my eyes from this monster and look at Black Otter, 2 more arrows fly from his bow, standing less than 10 feet from the screaming bear. All 3 arrows arrive, touching each other. In his hands are 3 more arrows. I string my bow, grabbing 4 arrows, but before I can shoot, the bear is after Black Otter. I fire on at his head. I know it won't stick. I want to attract his attention from Black Otter to me. It works. He takes a step toward me. The blood running from the cut over his eye must have blocked his vision. When he steps out to chase me, the bear collides with the travois. As his body strikes the travois, my lance snaps in half. This gives both of us time to get away from this maddened animal. I shoot another arrow, hoping he will come for me. I pick up my hawk and run for the trees with the bear chasing after me. If he were not wounded, he'd catch me, but he does not run as fast as I know he can. This gives me time to get in front of a wide fir tree. The bear is heading my way. Just before he can swipe a front paw and kill me, I dodge behind the tree. I keep the tree between us as he circles, trying to get me. I can see the hate and pain in his eyes. He roars his agony, and I can tell he's getting tired. I just hope I can endure him. The grizz lets out another roar. Black Otter is back and sending arrows his way. I use my hawk to hit as far as I can, more in the hope of keeping him after me than trying to connect. It works. This bear wants me. As each arrow lands, the bear roars. Pincushioned with a dozen arrows, I can see he is slowing. I watch Black Otter drop his empty quiver and take up mine. I did not know I dropped it. The last arrow lands. The yells are barely heard. The bear stumbles and falls. Keeping away from those still deadly claws, I use my knife to cut his neck. Showered in hot grizz blood, I stop my attack. The bear is looking at me as I watch life leave his great body. I remember wishing I didn't have to kill him. I walk out from the trees. Black Otter greets me at the side of the great beast. If someone told me this story, I would not believe him, says Black Otter. I agree. I look on his great bear with over 20 arrows, my lance, a cut from my hawk, and a knife. He is a great warrior. Look at what it took to take him down. Are you wounded? I ask my friend. No, but you are. This ain't my blood. It's from the grizz. That right there is a slice from a claw, Black Otter tells me, pointing at my shoulder. Once I see it, I feel the pain. Together we walk to his horse. I gifted him my canteen. Black Otter uses it to clean my shoulder. Willow can repair this shirt. How is my shoulder? I ask my friend. It will not need to be sewn closed. I will bind it tightly. It is a bad spot. Ready? Before I can reply, he wipes the blood away and ties a bandage in place. You used a corner from my horse blanket. That is all we had. Sit down while I bring back your horses, he says, laughing at my discomfort. The son moves 2 fingers before he returns. Both horses did not run far. What took time is repairing the travois and retying the deer. I had started skinning and cleaning the bear. Behind us we leave a gut pile. The travois carries our burden, the grizz and 2 deer. Both of us are tired. Not pushing the horses, we arrive after dark. A herd boy runs to tell Stands Alone and the elders. We have many friends help hang the deer and the grizz. Otter tells the tale as Willow looks at my wound. Some of Black Otter's friends help skin the deer and hang the meat in the trees. Stands Alone asks one of the elders to help us skin the bear. You can have the hide, says Black Otter. Thanks, but only if you'd agree to take half the claws and help me make a necklace with mine, I tell him. He quickly agrees. An old woman known for tanning soft bear hides takes the brains and the hide. I give Black Otter the skull. The smile on his face is thanks enough. Willow asks me to visit the warm spring to wash and change my clothes before setting foot in our lodge. I agree. While I'm gone, she grills buffalo, makes bread on a stick like I taught her, and begins a pot of coffee. Willow has developed a taste for coffee also. Clean and well fed, it is good to rest in my lodge with my crow wife. I stay 3 additional winters in the crow camp. During that 4th winter, I began thinking of making right the mistakes I made of my life before heading to the mountains. I am not the man I was when I arrived. I have immersed myself with crow life and society. What got me thinking about my past is Black Otter, my best friend in the village. He nominated me to enter the warrior society he and his family belongs to, Lumpwoods. While I was proud to be asked, I know how deep inside I have to straighten out my past. It was hard to leave Willow and our 2-year-old son, River Otter. I talked to Stans alone, and he agreed I needed to do this. I reckoned on being gone only 1 year. I was coming back and would immerse myself into the village life. The night before I left, I took up my rifles and pistols, cleaned them all, and sorted through my possibles. I asked Stans alone if he thought the village would want my extra rifles. He declined the offer, saying he wanted to keep the village true to the old ways. Willow helped me pack my camp equipment and supplies. I left my buffalo runner behind as proof I will return. I ride my best horse, 1 pack horse carrying all of my camping supplies, and 4 horses carry furs. My intention's to make Rendezvous to sell my fur and stock up on coffee, sugar, and the other necessities I am low on. For the first time in 4 years, I load my best rifle, the Pennsylvania long rifle. I leave the village with my 4 pistols. I also carry a hawk and 2 knives on my belt. My pack horse carries an extra of each, for just in case. I ride south from our summer range, heading for Rendezvous. I have no idea where it would be this year, but feel sure I would find trappers heading in the right direction and plan on following them. Finding trappers heading to Rendezvous was the easy part. Getting them to allow me to join their camp and ride with them was a completely different matter. I was used to the way I dressed and comfortable with it. I was not thinking that trappers would think on meeting me, especially trappers that do not know me. In the 4 years I've been in the Crow Village, I was sure all the trappers I knew had either gone under or returned east. I was correct in my reckoning. On sighting them, I rode with my rifle braced on my leg, pointing up into the air. My buckskins were highly decorated in paint, feathers, and beads. I wear a feather for each Blackfoot I killed in battle. My horse is also appropriately decorated. My hair is long, past my shoulders, and I was clean-shaved. The Crow call trappers wearing beards dogface. Since Willow liked me clean-shaven, I shaved a couple nights a week. Except for the long and flowing mustache, I kept it. Willow decorated my hair with braids. I only had the feathers for ceremonies, important events. I reckon going to Rendezvous is an important event. I gave my appearance no thought. We stop with about 30 feet between us. There are 6 trappers in the group and 1 camp helper. They began talking in English. I could only sit there and take in what they were saying. I am surprised. I did not answer them. I could not answer them. I sit my horse without a saddle on a blanket and take it all in, until a hothead in the back levels his rifle at me. I warn him to put up his weapon. Strange looks come over the trapper's face. A couple more ready their weapons. I understand immediately. I spoke in Crow, slowly and carefully. I formed the words in English. Sorry, I began. It's been over 3 years since I heard my native tongue. I slowly tell them. Where you been that you don't talk American? Asks the man I take as their Booshway. I've been living with the Crow. Why'd you go and do a full thing like that? Asked the hothead among them. I looked directly at him. When I arrived to trap these mountains, I believed I was ready and could survive. I was wrong. Blackfoot wiped out the company I was with. I was on my way back to the east when the Crow found me. They took care of my wounds and adopted me. I lived there with them for just over 4 years. I learned how to live in these mountains. I learned how to fight the Blackfoot. I am on my way to Rendezvous. I would like to ride with you, I tell them in halting English. Well now, if you're Indian educated to live in these Rocky Mountains, what do you need us for? Asked the hot-headed trapper. I do not think he likes or trusts me. I reckon it's mutual. I do not know where it will be held. I don't trust him. I say no. I say we just leave him and go on our way. I say, the Booshway interrupted the hothead. That is why you will not make a decent Booshway. I trust him, and I want to hear your story. You may ride with us to Rendezvous. Do you have supplies? I do not want to feed you for 2 weeks, he says with a smile. I have supplies. I was figuring on hunting for camp meat as I go. Good luck with that. We ain't seen an animal since getting off the boat, confesses the hothead. That surprises me. This land is full of game, buffalo, deer, elk, and bear, I tell him. Now I know he is crazy. This land has been trapped and hunted out. Why, there ain't a single deer in, begins the hothead until I interrupt him. Why do these men put up with this loudmouth, I ask myself. Out loud I say, alone and in less than an hour I can bring back a deer, I tell them. It ain't a boast. It is no wonder to me why they ain't seen any game. Talking as they ride, they pack and saddles make too much noise. Can't trust this wild man. He ain't even sitting in a saddle. I say, the Booshway interrupts his rant. Abe, you need to let your eyes read what you see and shut your mouth. Mister, I'm Will. As you probably guessed, I'm Booshway to this outfit, he said, sticking his hand out to shake. I am White Eagle. I mean, that is my crow name. I'm Zephaniah, but you can call me Zeph. I tell him, missing his hand and gripping his forearm. Another crow habit. After an initial bit of awkwardness, Will returns his grip to my forearm. Fall in and we'll be continuing, he tells me. I wait for them to pass, turn my horse, and fall into line behind their pack horses. They appear well supplied but carry few plews. I reckon they just arrived and not had time to begin trapping. And of course I reckon they are waiting for the weather to change. Summer fur does not bring in as much as the heavier winter fur. We ride until Forefinger separates the sun from the horizon. There is about an hour until sunset. Will picks a spot in the trees next to a creek. I hear a lot of moans as these men climb from their saddles. I pick a spot deeper into the trees. Jumping from my horse, I begin hobbling my pack horses, then unload them. I spread a buffalo lobe close to my horses and arrange the packs, carrying my supplies before looking for Will. He was arguing with the loudmouth about where to make a fire. I walk up, listen until I can take no more, then I butt in. Why don't you use the fire ring already built and used for many seasons, I asked him. All the trappers stopped what they were doing to listen. What? Where is this fire ring? I don't see it, shouts the angry lout. You almost tripped over it, and I laughed. I did not, he yells, stepping towards me, except he trips and falls at my feet. You found it, I told him. Clear away the leaves, and it will serve you well. I tell him, walking deeper into the trees. When I return with dry wood, I see someone has cleaned the fire pit and straightened the rocks lining the edge. I kneel down and begin making kindling with my hawk. I lay the small pieces in the ring. When ready, I get out my striker, flint, and char cloth. I notice all of them watching me as I strike the flint and collect a strong spark on the char cloth. Blowing on it slow and easy, I add it to a handful of dry bird's nest. With gentle blowing, the spark turns into a flame. With care, I add it to the kindling. A fire is quickly spreading among the small pieces of wood. I add progressively larger wood until the fire is well established. Sitting back on my heels, I see the entire company watching me. Some are smiling, many are nodding their heads, a few look surprised. What? I ask. You did that quick, says a man I have not noticed. A lot of practice, I tell him, getting to my feet. I'm Hugh, he says, holding out his hand. I'm Zeph, I reply, taking his hand. We shake. Hugh walks off, and Will takes his place. We're out of camp meat. Do you think you can bring something in, he asks me. All eyes are back on me. The loudmouth is laughing. I will do my best. Returning to my camp, I gather my rifle, pistols, and possibles. I jump onto the back of my riding horse and ride west. I got about 3/4 of an hour before the sun sets. I begin hunting as soon as I leave camp. Riding less than half a mile, I see an antelope. I make a quick shot, sitting on my horse. The prairie goat piles up. I knee my horse to our supper. A couple quick cuts and he's gutted. My horse hesitates as I throw the dead animal over his back, but I have trained him to carry game, so he stands. He may not like it, but he stands still. We ride into camp. The first to notice I'm back, the loudmouth. See, I told you he was full of hot air. He's back quick. I thought you'd at least stay out until dark, he laughs, getting the attention of the camp. It wasn't necessary to stay out that long. I hunt quiet, not scaring away the animals, I reply, dragging the antelope from behind me and holding it up for all of them to see. I hold it in one hand. I make sure the loudmouth sees. I know we will tangle. I'm giving him a glimpse of what he is in for. If he is smart enough to notice, he turns his back and walks away. I reckon I'll take that, said another man I have not met. Don't worry, I'm the camp cook. I want the hide and the horns. You know what? Let me skin him for you. I tore my horse to a tree, pulled my small knife, and skinned the antelope. I worked quickly. After carefully skinning around the face, I set the intact hide aside. My large knife separates the head from the body. I take the head and the hide to my small camp. Working quick, I crack the skull for the horns. I cannot do a brain tan, don't have the time. I flesh the hide as well as I can. I finish as the cook calls supper. Now I'm hungry. The cook grilled antelope steaks and made biscuits in a Dutch oven. The 8 of us polish off that antelope, all of his biscuits, and a pot of coffee. The next 2 weeks passed in a similar manner. Hugh was the only trapper that asked to accompany me on those afternoon hunts. We shot 1 buffalo that kept us in camp meat for several days. I was ashamed of wasting much of the animal, not counting the meat. I kept the sinew and the hide. The rest was ignored as we left that camp. 2 weeks later, we arrived at Bear Lake and the Rendezvous. We stopped to look at the crowd of trappers and mountain men gathered in front of us. All of us raised our rifles and fired into the air to the side of the camp. Mountain men traditions holds that firing your rifle announces your good intention and lets the crowd know that you are about to enter. The company I've been riding with races ahead, leaving Hugh and me behind. Hugh extends his hand. I am glad to know you, Zeph. If there is ever anything I can do for you, all you need to do is let me know, he says as we shake hands. Thanks, Hugh. You're the first mountain man that has said that to me. And in return, if there is ever anything you need to have but to ask, I will do everything in my power to help, I tell him. We shake, become lifelong friends. 2 of us ride into camp amid the noise and confusion of the revelry ahead. In the camp, we separate. Friends take Hugh towards the north end of the camp. I work my way to the south edge of the camp. I make my camp in the trees, caring for my horses first. I walk to the tents where trappers exchange their furs for another year's worth of supplies. The line is short. I return to my camp for my 4 horses bearing the packs of fur I want to trade. I step in the line, holding the reins to my riding horse. Next, shouts the clerk. I step forward. He looks up, and I see him recoil at my appearance. There is anxiety and panic in his eyes. This is the line for our white trappers. You Indians need to wait until we finish with our trappers. That will be in a day or 2, he tells me, in a halting, almost stuttering manner. I am a white trapper, you fool. Open your eyes and take a good look. I yell at him as he cowers at my words. I feel a hand trying to grab my arms. How many times do we have to tell you? All Indians will be seen in 2 days. Now get out of line. Make way for our own trappers, he shouts in my ear. I turn to face him. I pull my arm out of his grasp. He tries grabbing me in a bear hug. I plant a fist in his guts. He falls to the ground. 2 more take his place. I feel the red haze that always falls on me before a fight settling on my shoulders. I'm ready for a fight. I pull a knife and a hawk. Come ahead, you fools, if you dare, I scream at him. Behind the 2, who I take to be guards, I see Hugh Glass hurrying into the tent. Stop it right now before some of you are killed by friend Zephaniah, he shouts at the guards. Everyone stops in place. I must admit I want to land my hawk in one of those fools. Slowly the red haze lifts. I lose the desire to kill. The clerk stands up. I grab him by the front of his shirt. I am so mad, I really desire to slit his throat. Zeph, don't do it. Let him go. The man is a fool, blinded by his own prejudices. He ain't worth it, Zeph. Hugh tells me, standing at my side. I feel his hand on my shoulder. The room waits in expectation of my next move. Several trappers watching from outside the tent urge me to kill him. The grip the red haze has on me slowly lifts. In its place, my stomach hurts. Spreading to my head, I feel weak. I let him loose. He flops to the ground. You best be careful who you're laying hands on, boys. I've been living with the Crow for 4 years. If this is how you treat people, I am not trading with you, I tell them. I turn to find my horses. I see a mountain man holding their reins. I turn my back on the clerks to walk to my horses. Those horses are mine, I tell him. Yes, I know. I was just holding them for you. Tell me, are you the one the Crow call White Eagle? Yes, I am. You are lucky you ain't dead. You just escaped from the warrior's White Eagle. He laughs, handing me the reins. If you step up, we will give you a fair price for your fur, Zeph, says the head clerk. I turn to him. Only my friends can call me Zeph. That includes Hugh Glass and this man, I say, pointing to the one that rescued my horses. As for trading with you, I will not deal with you, I say, turning my back again. I walk to my hasty camp. Tying the lead of my horses to trees, I begin rolling up my clamp. I am leaving. I ride out the way I ride in. I'm alone and leading my horses. I have a vague plan in mind that needs rounding out. I will think on it tonight. The new plan. I will arrive at the trading post in the steamship landing on the confluence of the Yellowstone and the Missouri rivers. My plan is to head for St. Louis on a steamboat. During the days, I wait until the steamboat arrives. I plan on selling my extra horses. I'll have money in my pockets for the first time in almost 5 years. I will return to St. Louis with 7 horses, 4 of which carry fur. I will trade my 2 extra rifles for enough coffee, flour, sugar, and salt to see me through the trip. The return trip will take 10 days. This is my plan.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Stagecoach, brought to you by Dusty Saddles Publishing, the home of Western excellence, where the best of the Western authors can be found. Visit our website at dspublishingnetwork.com. Join us next week for part 2 of Zephaniah Mountain Man, Rocky Mountain Maturity by Mike Mackessy.